It's my special pleasure to be able to welcome our distinguished guest today, the President of Rhode Island College, Nancy Cariolo, the President and the Commissioner of Higher Education, Rhode Pasquale, and especially, and I learned this last night from Madam President of the Senate, His Excellency, the Honorable Governor of the State of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, Lincoln Chafee. We're delighted to have you with us today, Governor. As you all know, last night was really quite an occasion for higher education in Rhode Island. I think we saw something last night, we heard some things last night that we had not as a community heard in a very long time. And that's what we're here to comment on today and to discuss with you to some degree today. And I would like to introduce the governor and have him step up and just continue, I think, with the excellent points that he made last night in his budget presentation and State of the State address. Governor Chafee.
I do believe we're very lucky in Rhode Island to have three good presidents of our institutions, of public institutions of higher education. President Cariolo, President Dooley, and President Pasquale. We're very lucky in Rhode Island. Three good presidents of our public institutions of higher education. And over the past 4 years, unfortunately, our valuable institutions of higher education have been cut 38 million. Cut 38 million over the last 3 years. And I wanted to reverse that trend. The Board of Higher Education asked for $30 million. I wasn't able to go along with $30 million as we face this huge budget deficit with the loss of the federal stimulus money. But I was determined to at least reverse the trend of having cuts over the past 4 years. And I was able to, despite the difficulties of this fiscal year 2012, losing the stimulus money and having a $295 million surplus, was able to put in, with the broadening of the tax base, was able to put in $10 million for higher education. And working with the commissioner and with the other presidents, we're hoping that the first rung for Rhode Islanders going to the community colleges will not see a tuition increase. That's our goal. The goal, of course, would have no tuition increases of the three institutions, and we'll work towards that. But with this $10 million, I do believe that first rung of getting into the workforce and getting into higher education at the community college will be able to not have a tuition increase. So that's our goal. And I'll say to you that this is an indication of my commitment. If I can do this in this budget, or we can do it in this budget, with this year, fiscal year 2012, one of the hardest ever, maybe 91 with the credit union crisis was another difficult one, but this is just right up there with them, one of the hardest budgets ever. To make this commitment of $10 million, that's an indication of what future years will look like. As the revenues do come back, that commitment will continue, because I believe that's the future of our state in our education, not only in higher education, but elementary and secondary also. So I'm happy here to urge the General Assembly to keep that $10 million in there, and if revenues do increase, not only will we work to lower the taxes, but also to continue that commitment to education in our state. So thank you very much, and spend it wisely.
Thank you very much, Governor. I assure you we will do our utmost to spend it very wisely indeed. It's now my pleasure to welcome to the podium the President of the Community College of Rhode Island and the Commissioner of Higher Education, Rhode Pasquale. And I must say that it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with him and for him in higher education here in Rhode Island. I think, as the Governor mentioned, we're exceptionally, not speaking for myself, but just for my colleagues now, I think we're exceptionally privileged in this state to have the kind of leadership that Rhode Pasquale provides and President Cariolo provides. And so, Ray, I'd like to ask you to come up.
Well, before I begin to make just a few brief remarks, we'd like to introduce our new chair that will be sworn in, we hope, rather soon and be Senate approved. But You know, we've read about him when there was a great editorial. We think the governor has made an absolutely outstanding choice for higher education. He happens to be a URI alum as well, so we'll be okay with that. But Lauren, please stand up, and I know he's going to say a few words, but welcome and thank you. Well, Governor, last night was truly an extraordinary, historic night for higher education. And let me convey to you on behalf of the 43,000 students in our public institutions, our faculty, our staff, and us, the administration that are here today, that we are extremely grateful for what you have done, for your vision, and you have put a stop on a dangerous downward spiral, and you have restored to higher education the funding that has been cut over the last 4 years. Governor, on behalf of all of us, we are extremely grateful for what you have done and the vision you have in making higher education and education across the state a high priority. Thank you so very much. I can only tell you that in my meetings with the governor and his team since they have taken office, I have been extremely encouraged by what I view as a deep commitment to public higher education from this administration. Governor Chafee has made it very clear that he understands the importance of post-secondary education and that his intent is to invest in our state's public higher education system. We are extremely pleased that the governor has now carried that principle forward with the restoration of $10 million to higher education for the FY12 budget year. The governor's budget proposal is proof positive and tangible evidence of his belief in the importance and necessity of a strong post-secondary system in Rhode Island. It sends a very strong message across our state of the importance of higher education. We know that it is the key to our economic recovery, that if we can educate our students, we can educate Rhode Islanders, continuing to make higher education affordable, accessible, and continuing to provide the quality that each institution brings to this table. Governor, your commitment is not going unnoticed, and we will spend your dollars wisely. And simply, as the community college, the commitment that has been made is a large infusion of cash to each one of us. We will not raise the tuition or ask the board at the community college for a tuition increase. We do know that there may be some increases. As we know, the bulk of Rhode Islanders go to the community college, 18,000 strong. It is the heart of this state. We can no longer ask those students to bear the brunt of this. And the governor has made that commitment in the community college, and I'm hopeful that the board will see fit not to raise the tuition. But I will tell you, your challenges are ahead of you because we still have a gap to close at both the university and Rhode Island College, and we are going to need your support as we look forward to what is possible to close that gap. So Governor, Lauren, my colleagues, and everyone that's here, I want to thank you for the tremendous support that we've seen. Governor Chafee, it is truly a pleasure to be part of your cabinet. It is truly a pleasure to be serving as the Commissioner of Education and the President of the Community College under your leadership. And thank you for your outstanding vision in helping us move our agenda forward. Thank you so very much.
President Cariola of Rhode Island College was one of the first to welcome me to the state and to the University of Rhode Island, and it's been a pleasure to work with her in the year and a half or so that I have been here. I think she's provided outstanding leadership to Rhode Island College and will continue to do so, and I'd like to welcome President Cariola to the program.
Thank you, David. I'm fortunate to have such good colleagues. I wanted to bring a good report back to our new governor from Rhode Island College. I wanted you to know that most of the campus, if not everyone, last night was tuned in and listening to your budget address, and that people were very optimistic this morning in talking about what you had to say and the prospect for all of public education in Rhode Island, K through 12 as well as higher education. And we thank you very much for your understanding of the role of education in promoting economic development in the state And we also want to thank you for being someone who's interested in each and every one of our public institutions and the impact that we can have with our separate missions on making our state stronger and better. Thank you very much, Governor. We very much look forward to working with you and with our new board that I understand will be confirmed, we hope, very soon. Thank you again.
Thank you, Nancy. I just would like to add a couple of things to, I think, the wonderful remarks that have been made by those who preceded me here. It is, as Ray DePasquale said, a very, very important message that you sent last night, Governor. And it's a message that I believe will resonate nationally. It's almost impossible these days to pick up any publication that deals with public higher education or higher education in general in the United States and not see yet another state announcing dramatic reductions in funding for public higher education. Just yesterday, the governor of Pennsylvania, for example, suggested that the funding for Pennsylvania State University and the state universities of Pennsylvania should be reduced by 50% in 1 year. In that context, to come forward and say that no, regardless of one of the most difficult budgetary situations that any state in the United States will face in the next year, that Rhode Island instead will invest in higher education and in education more broadly, I think sends exactly the right message for the times, that we are now a state that understands that it is essential to provide the appropriate educational opportunities, particularly post-secondary educational opportunities at the colleges and universities of Rhode Island, the public colleges and universities of Rhode Island, in order to create a new, sustainable, and vibrant economy for our people. And I think that message will resonate. I think it will be covered. I think we will be surprised at the attention that it brings to Rhode Island for being willing to make that kind of investment in this kind of climate with the kind of numbers that we as a state are looking at. I know at the University of Rhode Island, the monies that we receive will be directly support the education at the undergraduate level primarily and at the graduate level of Rhode Island students in our general operating funds, and that those monies will make a substantial difference to the experience that we're able to provide those students in 2012, and we'll make good use of those funds. At this time, I would like to ask the new designated chair of the Board of Governors for Higher Education, whom all of us know and are very anxious to begin working with. And I do want to applaud you, Governor. I mean, I've heard nothing but good commentary across the state, especially over the designation of Lauren Adrian as the new chair, but of all the appointees that you have named to the Board of Governors. It's a very strong group. I think it's a group that's passionate about higher education, understand its importance to the state, and we look forward as your presidents to work very closely with them. And with that, I'd like to welcome you to the podium.
Well, I feel like I'm among friends, and I really enjoy being back here at URI. Thank you all for joining me up here and starting anew. I would reflect, maybe share with you a story, and that is the story of how my appointment came to be. The governor and I share, along with some others, a monthly lunch. And the lunch is called CHOW. Challenges, hopes, opportunities, and wisdom. And it was in the context of those conversations that I came to know a man that I really like and admire. And what I heard last night just made me feel that much stronger about his leadership. In these very, very difficult times, it takes imagination, it takes courage, and it takes commitment to suggest what he did last night. And I want to say thank you. I will also say that when the governor asked me if I would consider taking this role, I was all fired up and excited about it and decided I would go into his office as he requested me to do, and I would come in with the requirement that if I'm to take this job, I want to know that you're really committed to public higher education and you're really committed to elementary and secondary education in Rhode Island. I didn't have to say a word. The moment I stepped in the room, he started with his ideas about what he wanted to do to improve elementary and secondary education in Rhode Island, and how he wanted to reverse the trend of supportive higher education in Rhode Island. So I was very, very delighted, in fact inspired, to be working on the team, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with you all. I think what we need going forward is imagination and courage, and a whole lot of collaboration and respect for one another. And if we have all those things and we're talking with one another fairly, we will make great strides together. So I'm just delighted to be here, and I will thank you for helping me to learn, helping me to know how to best support the institutions in this state, and how together we can all go forward. So thank you very, very much. I'm delighted to be here with the man that I would like to suggest that we all think of as the education governor. Thank you.
Thank you,
If there are any questions from the meeting, we're glad to take them.
Yeah, sure. Just about, no, I was just about to say that.
You've started your tour of promoting your budget this morning with elementary, secondary schools, this afternoon with universities, both places you're sending more money. Are you going to go to those places where you're taking money away?
Well, the first,
Step up to the microphone.
yes. Yes, I do like to get out of the office and travel around the state to all the entities that we oversee. And the Health and Human Services are taking the biggest brunt of the cuts. And so I do want to be very involved in how those cuts are implemented. So yes, I'll be very visible.
How do you intend to be involved?
Well, even before the budget came out, I go around to all the departments. I've been through Department of Elderly Affairs, I've been through Department of Transportation, Department of Administration, and I want to continue to do that all through Human Services and up to Zambarano Hospital. And these are very expensive enterprises we're involved in and needy, but I want to make sure we're doing them well and as efficiently as possible.
These two are expensive enterprises. What did you do to see to it that you could maintain or increase the funding for both colleges, universities, and elementary and secondary education?
How?
How'd you do it?
Well, I call it revenue enhancements. We raised our revenue. And that's what's happening in Pennsylvania. They don't want to address the revenue side. And we just can't, I don't like taxes any more than anybody else does, but we just have to get this state moving forward. And these are difficult times, and I hope the General Assembly will agree. We're going to do it half on cuts and half on revenue enhancements.
What kind of feedback have you received in the last 12 hours?
Surprisingly positive so far. The pain is being shared fairly equally, and that was the goal. I thought there would be more opposition, but I think people understand. They understand the difficulty we're in. And the facts are that if we can continue to broaden the sales tax and lower it, I think that's going to help our economy, and I think people understand that. What's happened is that with a narrow tax base on the sales tax, when the economy slows down, people stop buying the peripheral stuff that is taxed. The essential goods that are not taxed, people still buy. And so our revenues are up and down, and we want to steady them out. And I think people understand that. By broadening it, we'll steady out our revenue stream in the state.
How much are you counting on an improving economy?
I'm not banking on it. I'm a very conservative budgeter, and I don't bank on that. I don't write that into the budget, but I am cautiously optimistic, as they say. The trend is very, very slow, but it is positive.
Along the lines of revenue enhancement, tell us about your thinking in implementing tolls on bridges.
Well, as I said last night, and I know we're getting off education here, and I don't want to take up the president's valuable time, so why don't we talk about anything other than education another time? Yes. Even afterwards, Steve, we can chat about that. Any other questions on?
Yes, I wanted to, this really may be a question for the presidents rather
Okay,
than
good.
the governors. Sorry.
That's why we're here.
The challenges, you indicated that the board faces challenges in balancing the budget, and certainly the presidents have thought about what reductions need to be made in those institutions where some tuitions must be raised to at least a slight degree, what those recommendations might look like.
Well, first of all, let me say, I think the approach that the governor articulated is precisely the right approach and is, I think, widely considered best practices in higher education. And that is that what you want to do, what you need to do for access, is to ensure that the tuition increases and the costs for your two-year system is as low as you can make it with the resources that you have. And I think that therefore does mean that that tuition increases at the University of Rhode Island and Rhode Island College are going to be a part of our budget for 2012. There's little doubt about that. I think the past Board of Governors did a very good job in crafting a budget request, recognizing how difficult the times were, that laid out what would be necessary for all three institutions to essentially hold tuition in 2012 at its 2011 level. That wasn't possible to do in this budgetary climate, and we understand that. What we will do is we will go back now that we know what the state support will be, and at the University of Rhode Island we have a strategic planning and budget council. We will involve that group in thinking through the 2012 budget and what it needs to look like in order for us to be balanced and yet to be able to provide the quality of the education that our students need and deserve if they're going to be successful. And that will be almost certainly a mixture of tuition increase and budget reductions in order to balance the budget for 2012. I think public higher education Rhode Island has an exemplary record of balancing its budgets, even in very difficult financial times. Yes, that's had, I think, an impact on affordability as we've been forced for the past several years to raise tuition. But I think what we see today is the beginning of a process that will enable us first to moderate and then potentially, if the revenues improve and the state's economic climate improves, significantly reduce the kinds of tuition increases that we've been forced to levy in the past. So at least for the University of Rhode Island, that will be our approach. And President Cariolo may wish to share with you what the thinking is at Rhode Island College.
Well, since we're all part of one system, I would say that our thinking does probably not deviate very much. We're also, now that we know what the status is, we will go back and we'll be talking with people on campus about what kind of combination we might make of cuts. And as always, the priorities at Rhode Island College are to ensure the quality of programs and safety on campus. So those will be two primary goals in thinking about what we might be able to cut when we come together for that discussion. Thank you.
I'm sorry, is cutting safety on campus?
No, maintaining quality and maintaining safety on campus. That those are two primary objectives that we always keep in mind at Rhode Island College when we think about where we might or might not be able to make a reduction.
As we've said, the community college doesn't intend to raise tuition. And the shortfall, fortunately, because we're having growing enrollments, record number of enrollments, that offsets a lot of the cuts that we're planning. Because remember, enrollment is a big part of our tuition and fees today. I mean, that's really driving our institutions. So we plan to keep that enrollment high, and we know it will continue high in this tough economy. We know that we're going to keep our tuition level. And we'll continue to do the things that all three institutions have been doing, and that is we've been looking at consolidations within the institutions. We've been looking at positions very carefully and monitoring them and not filling where not necessary. We're doing a lot more collaboration than we've done, and we've also looked inward at our institutions to find savings. And right now, you know, we've been doing that very strongly for the last 4 years. The tuition increases is how we have managed the budget. But back to President Dooley's comment, we've never asked for a supplemental budget, not once. And which means we've managed our budgets in these very difficult times with exactly what we've been allocated. And now with this extra funding and really stopping this reversal of a trend of continuing to cut us is extremely important. Because now we can begin, and what I thought was very important last night was the governor's vision that we've got to look out to the future, that we've got to start doing planning. And because each year, we never know what we're going to have the next year. It's so critical, and he's really addressing the core of the problems in the state, which is that structural deficit. It's a real plan. And that allows us at the institutions to begin to do real planning for the future. This, in our minds, is a very exciting time for the state. It's a great plan. It begins to restore money, not to the levels that the governor would have liked, but we understand that. And we're just thrilled that it is where it is, because as David said, and across the nation, it's going in the opposite way. Rhode Island has taken, and our governor has taken, a very bold step, and we don't say that lightly, but it's very true.
So, Commissioner,
Yes.
I think what I'm hearing is no tuition, in terms of tuition, no increase at CCRI.
Correct.
Perhaps an increase at URI, maybe not as much as had been anticipated.
Yes.
Jury still out at Rick, or?
No, I would say there has to be an increase at both institutions, along with the board. The board has got to be brought up to speed so that they understand what that increase will be for. We have to justify it there. And as the governor has suggested, it's not going to close the entire gap. And all of our institutions know that whatever tuition increase is proposed, it won't close the gap. But importantly, it will maintain the quality of both institutions that we need to maintain. Any further questions for anyone? If not, again, as we bring this to a close, President Dooley, thank you for your hospitality and your outstanding staff. Nancy, thank you for your leadership at Rhode Island College. We look forward to our new leadership as our chair begins his process. And as we close, I just want everybody to know that, again, I can't tell you what a great day this is for us in higher education. And as Lauren, you said it so well, the education governor has risen to the top. And Governor, we think you're a pretty good governor too. So on behalf of all of us, thank you.